Are you seeing your grocery bill rise, but your paycheck has stayed the same? Hi, I'm Michelle from JMC Family Farms. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can start to learn to grow some of your own food. Stick with me, because if you learn this, you are definitely going to learn to stretch your budget and you're going to save money. Flower beds look beautiful in your yard, but they sure don't help to produce any sort of food for your family. Having a look at your property to see, do you have a flower bed that you could convert to a vegetable garden? Maybe at the side of your house, you have another area. I used to always have shrubs and different sort of plants right in my gardens, but over the last few years, I've slowly started to convert them to vegetable gardens. Now, I have chickens, so I do have to be careful what I put close to the house because our chicken's free range. So I can't put things like tomatoes, different things the chickens love. Beets I could never put near the house because the chickens would dig them up. They love to dig in the flower garden and dust bath themselves there. By turning some of your flower beds into vegetable gardens, it won't only save you money, but it will also save you trips to the grocery store. And what's so nice is when you're cooking dinner, how fast is it to be able to run out to your own yard and grab some of your fresh vegetables? I wanted to come inside and warm up for a little bit, but I also wanted to show you some of the vegetables that I grew in our garden in the summertime. I have a question for you. What type of vegetables does your family normally eat? I ask you this question because when you're planting a garden, you want to make sure you're picking vegetables that your family would eat. For instance, if your family doesn't like to eat beans, don't plant beans in your own vegetable garden. When you're new to gardening, make sure that you pick vegetables that are fairly easy to grow. You want to make sure that you choose vegetables so that you're successful and that you're actually able to harvest some crops. I by no means am an expert gardener, but I've been able to grow these successfully for several years now. Tomatoes is a great one to start with. You can either buy seeds and start your tomatoes yourself in the spring so that you can then transplant your seedlings into your garden, or you can also buy plants that have already been started for you at a garden center. Tomatoes are great because you can either grow them in a regular sized garden, you can grow them in pots, or even in flower beds. This is a bag of my frozen tomatoes, so make sure you check out the video on your screen right now to see just how easy it is to freeze tomatoes whole. No more canning. I'm not a fan of canning, so this is really easy, and then we're able to use these tomatoes all winter long with stews, soups, all sorts of different things. So make sure you check out the link on your screen to see how I did this. Beans is something our family eats a lot of, so I freeze a lot of beans. When you're planting beans, you can either plant them in flower pots, you can plant them in a flower bed, you could plant them in a regular garden. Nice thing with planting things in pots, you can move those pots around so that if maybe you've got a section where it gets a lot of afternoon sun, you don't want that plant in that particular spot, you can always move it. When I plant beans, I plant different color beans, you can see them in here, and I plant them at different times, usually a couple of weeks apart, because then I can harvest the beans throughout the season. The thing is with beans is you can actually just buy seeds. It's very inexpensive. There's all different types of variety of beans, and you can just buy the different seed packages, and then you can either start the beans in the house in the spring, or you can just sow them directly in the ground. Onions is something else that you should try. So I typically plant cooking onions as well as red onions, and I have planted some green onions in the past as well. Onions are a nice thing that you can have. You can store them over the winter time. We just store all of our things in the basement because where we live, our cold cellar actually freezes, so we can't keep a lot of things in there because then your vegetables will rot. What you need to do is you can buy the onion bulbs, and then I just plant the bulbs right in the garden. All the instructions are right on the packages. The nice thing about onions is if your space is limited, you can plant certain varieties of onions in flower beds as well. So that could be an option if space is limited. I grew butternut squash for the first time last year, and all that I can tell you is squash spreads like crazy. So I had planted pumpkins and butternut squash together in a garden, and it was like a jungle out there. Have a look at this picture so that you can see exactly what it looked like. This is squash that we have from our garden from in the summertime that I harvested in the fall. I'm still using them now. We put them in the basement to store them, and no issues with them at all. So again, that's something that you can plant and then you have to eat over the winter time. Garlic is one of my very favorite things to grow. Once you grow your own garlic, there is no comparison to the garlic that you would get at a grocery store. So this is Hardneck Garlic. I'll put a link for a video above so that you can see how to grow garlic for beginners. Hardneck garlic is not hard to grow at all, so you definitely need to try it. When thinking about starting a garden, you have to look at the type of space that you have. If you only have a porch or a balcony, there's certain types of vegetables that you can't grow in that confined space because you're going to be using containers. Maybe you're going to use some sort of a raised bed. There's lots of options. You can build a raised bed. You can use old troughs to make beds. There's lots of really inexpensive ways to create those spaces so that you can start to grow some of your own food. All you have to do is do a little bit of research to see what sorts of vegetables would be a great option when you have a limited amount of space. When you're deciding where to put your garden, make sure you don't put your garden far from a water source. Unless you have something like a rain barrel where you're going to collect water, you do not want to carry water to a garden that doesn't have access to a hose, because you want to make sure that you're setting it up for success. And if you have to carry buckets of water by hand to a garden, you are not going to do it. You just won't be successful. Gardening is a very practical skill that you can learn. It helps you stay active, and it's nice to know where your food is actually coming from. Now that you have some ideas and hopefully a little bit of inspiration, make sure you check out the video on your screen right now to see the no-dig garden. Did this no-dig garden actually work? You be the judge. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.